So before starting chapter 9 unit 1, my question to you is simple, students. What is international trade? Is it relevant only to some people? No, it affects the life of everyone. Okay, maybe the shirt I'm just wearing, some part of it has been brought or purchased. The raw material of it has been brought from some country. So international trade is everywhere. International trade is everywhere. In every commodity, when you are attending this class, whichever room you are sitting in, at least 50 goods will be there which have been imported from some outside country. Right? So, what is international trade? What is international trade? Students, buying and selling of goods and services between countries. I repeat, buying and selling of goods and services between countries. Because the entire chapter 9 focuses on concepts related to international trade, so it is very important we remember what is international trade. Buying and selling of goods and services between country. Let's read this one first. International trade. International trade is the exchange of goods, services and resources across international borders. It differs from internal trade. It differs from internal trade because internal trade means, students, buying and selling within the same country. But when more than one country is involved, we call it international trade. Okay, it differs from internal trade due to factors such as different currencies, trade barriers and legal systems. Very important. Suppose I am buying and selling something in India only. Okay, there is no international trade involved. If I am buying and selling something within India only, I will be using rupees. So only one currency is involved. But suppose I am buying something from America. Okay, so rupee has to be converted to dollars first. Two currencies are involved. Two different laws are involved. There has to be Indian law that is to be taken care of, and then the foreign law, the American law. Okay, so we understand this. Students, what is unit 1 all about? What is unit 1 all about? Unit 1 talks about different theories of international trade. Different theories of international trade, meaning why trade should take place or when trade should take place. There are different theories. Each economist came with their own approach. Some said trade should take place because of this reason. Some said should take place because of that reason. So there is some reason why trade should take place. Let's highlight the few. Number one theory is the mercantilism view. What is it? It's the mercantilism view. Theory of mercantilism. I will encourage all the students to keep taking running notes. Okay, all these notes will be shared with you, but whatever you understand, when you write in your own language, you understand that the best. As usual, the 3-step process of success in this subject. Step number one, you attend the class. There are past lectures also recorded. If you have missed any, you watch them. That is, if live, then live, and if not, then recorded. Okay, case 1. Case 2 is, when the class is being conducted, make it a habit of maintaining your running notes. And finally, number 3, ICAI study material. Institute's study material. Read at least 3 times. I have told this number again and again. If you try all this, chances of success are pretty high. You will see that. So let's go ahead, everyone. Mercantilism. What does this theory says? Students, the mercantilism theory says we should focus on more exports and less imports. Game over. Theory of mercantilism, that is the first theory of international trade. It says focus on more exports and less imports. Why? Because when you export more, it is a traditional theory. Mercantilism is a traditional theory. Around 16th to 18th century. Here they say that you accumulate precious metals like gold. When you export more, then you import, you collect more gold. Your country is richer, you are economically better off. That's it. Full stop. Theory of mercantilism is over. So we have done two things so far. What is international trade? Exchange of goods, services across the boundaries of the country. And finally, the theory of mercantilism, which states what? One country should focus more on exports than on imports. Because when you export more, you are able to accumulate more gold and other precious metals. That's it. Game over. Game over. Now, theory of absolute advantage propounded by Mr. Smith, Mr. Adam Smith. What does it say? See, what does Adam Smith say here? Countries should specialize in goods where they have absolute cost advantages. Where they have what? Absolute cost advantages. Let me explain this to you with a simpler example. What I am explaining now is theory of absolute advantage. Theory of absolute advantage. Okay, see, here is India, okay, and here is USA. This is rice, and this is machine, or let's write it cloths for a much simpler example. Rice and cloths. Okay, think carefully and listen carefully. Theory of absolute advantage will be absolutely clear. Pay attention. To grow rice, the cost of production, all this data I will be giving is cost of production. Okay, so India can produce rice at a cost of rupees 500 per ton. I just gave an random example, 500 per ton. For America to produce rice, America has to incur 1500 per ton. Oh my god. India can produce cloths at rupees 800 per piece. America can make cloths at rupees 300 per piece. Okay? This is a hypothetical scenario I have created. Think carefully. First, consider rice. Students, in terms of rice, who has absolute cost advantage? Who is better in rice production? India incurs rupees 500 per ton to produce rice. America incurs 1500 per ton to produce rice. Who is cheaper? Who is better in rice production? Sir, if all of you have been paying attention, your answer would be India is better here. And who is better in cloth production? If you look carefully, class, India makes cloths at 800 per piece and USA does that at 300 per piece. Who is better in cloth production? Of course, America. Theory of absolute advantage tells us what you are good at. What you are good at, you export. And what you are bad at, you import. Common sense, right? What you are good at, you export that. Okay? What you are good at, you export that. And what you are not good at, you import that. So here, ideally, if we were to listen to theory of absolute advantage given by Adam Smith, theory of absolute advantage given by Adam Smith, we would come to the conclusion that India should sell rice to America and America should sell clothes to India. I told you all the theories of international trade give an answer to two questions. Why trade takes place and when should the trade take place, international trade. Understood. So there goes theory of absolute advantage. Let's read both of the first two theories, right? Mercantilism dominated Europe from 16th to 18th century. It emphasized exports over imports. More exports, less imports to accumulate precious metals. The policy promoted state control over trade and industry to achieve a favorable balance of trade. Then theory of absolute advantage given by Smith, it says Adam Smith proposed that countries should specialize in goods where they have absolute cost advantage. Where they have absolute cost advantage. This theory is based on labor productivity and suggests that mutual benefits can be achieved if each country focused on goods. If each country focused on goods, it can produce more efficiently. You do what you are better at and export that. What you are not good at, you buy that. Who gave this? Adam Smith. There are more things to know, but first understand the theories in brief. Then, theory of comparative advantage. Acha, by the way, let me tell you, all these three questions in different attempts have come in the PYQs. In the PYQs. All the theories. Now, what does theory of comparative advantage given by or propounded by Ricardo tells us? What does Ricardo's theory tell us? I'll give you another example to explain that. See, let me give you an example, okay? So as I said, India can produce rice at 500 per ton, okay? America can do it in 1500 per ton, okay? Let America be able to do it in 400 per ton. Let America be able to do it in 400 per ton. Let's reassess the situation now. Okay? Let's reassess. What am I explaining now? Theory of comparative advantage given by David Ricardo. Okay. Students, India can produce rice at 500 per ton. America can do it in 400 per ton. 400 per ton. So who is better in rice production? America. Because America can do the same work in a cheaper manner. In cloth production, who is better? Let's see. India 800 per piece. America can do it in 300 per piece. Who is better in cloths as well? America. So theory of comparative advantage tells us that when a country is good in all the commodities, when a country is better in all the commodities than the other country, when a country is better in all the commodities than the other country, then it should do that. Then it should do that in which it has a greater advantage. It doesn't mean that America should produce rice as well as cloths. No. Where America is having greater advantage? In rice or in cloths? In cloths. You see, here the difference is meager 100. Here the difference is around 500. So America is way better in cloths. So this theory still says the same thing. So America should export cloths and America should buy rice from India. You do what? You don't do everything. This theory says you don't do everything. Even if you are good in both the things, this theory says that even if you are good in both the things, even if a country is good in both the things, it should export that thing in which it has a greater advantage. It should export that thing in which it has a greater advantage. Let's read this. Let's read this. Let's read this. Ricardo argued that trade is beneficial even when a country has absolute advantage in all goods. Institute tricked all the students, I think, in an attempt or two before. They gave this statement. It is argued, instead of Ricardo, they said it is argued that trade is beneficial even when a country has absolute advantage in all the goods. Which theory is it? Theory of absolute advantage, comparative advantage, etc., etc. Now students saw the word absolute advantage, so they said it is theory of absolute advantage. But no, it is theory of comparative advantage. A theory of absolute advantage says one country will be good in one commodity. Theory of comparative advantage says one country will be good in everything. If you all remember my last example, India was better than America in rice production and America was better in cloth production. Then it is theory of absolute advantage. But here in comparative advantage we saw America is better in both. America is better in both. Comparative advantage exists when a country can produce at a lower opportunity cost than other. This theory remains foundational in trade economics and explain why nations benefit from specialization and exchange. Specialization means despite America being good in both the commodities, America should focus on what? America should focus on exporting the one it is way better at. You can see it here. America is way better in cloth production than rice production, though it is better in both. Sir, got it. This was the third theory. This was the third theory. Because Unit 1 of Chapter 9 deals with different theories only. Unit 1 of Chapter 9 deals with different theories only. So I will explain that only. Heckscher-Ohlin theory. Remember, it is also referred to as Heckscher-Ohlin theory is also referred to as endowment theory. Endowment theory. What does endowment theory tell us, sir? What does endowment theory tell us, sir? Students, endowment theory tells us endowment means gift. Nature or Mother Earth has given different gifts to each country. Some country will have more deposits of minerals, some country will have more deposits of or some country will be richer in agricultural land. So this theory tells us that nature has gifted everyone differently. You means the country should focus on what they have been gifted and they should export that. So for example, if India has gotten rich fertile agricultural lands, India should grow agricultural output and should export them. And suppose India doesn't have enough minerals, so India should focus on importing that. Factor endowment theory. Let's read it. According to this theory, a country's comparative advantage lies in its factor endowments. Countries export goods that use their abundant resources. I told you, we have abundant agriculture. It shifts the basis of trade from productivity difference to resource availability. So it says, Heckscher-Ohlin theory says, what you are good at doesn't matter. What you have been gifted more, you use that. What you have been gifted more by the nature, you use that. Like for example, India is a labor rich economy. India has a lot of labor. So India should use more of labor to produce goods and export those goods. America has got less labor but more of machinery capability. So America should focus on that. So Heckscher-Ohlin theory is also done. Next is what, sir? Acha, before I move to new trade theory by Paul Krugman, let's one more time discuss all this that we have done, okay, in a rather greater detail, okay? See, so I had begun my discussion with explanation on what is international trade. I told it is the exchange of goods and services as well as resources between countries. It involves transaction between residents of different countries. It involves transactions between residents of different countries. Benefit: it reduces production cost, it improves living standards, it enlarges markets, it earns foreign exchange, it promotes growth, technology and employment. ठीक है? So country A is exporting goods, services and resources, and in return it is getting its payment in foreign currency or foreign exchange. Okay, so here is the difference between the two. Nobody is going to ask you the differences, so I don't really want to go on detail now. Different theories, very important, very important. Mercantilism, when was it predominant? 16th to 18th century. What did mercantilism focus on? Export more, import less. Huh? More of exports, less of imports. Here it is. It advocates maximizing exports to bring in more precious metals and minimizing imports. So here the main goal is to bring in more precious metals. If institute wants to set up an MCQ paper, it will say more precious metals. Since we are having an MCQ paper, it will focus on more precious metals. Remember this. What are the key measures? High tariff on imports. How can you ensure that you export more? You impose huge taxes on imports. So people are discouraged from importing. What are the types of taxes? We are going to study today only in unit 2. Because unit 1 is very small unit. Subsidies to exporters. People who are exporting, you give them a boost. So there it is. Mercantilism. Theory of absolute advantage was given by who? By Smith, Adam Smith. It says what? One country will be good in one commodity, the other country will be good in some other commodity. These two countries should exchange their specialities. That's it. These two countries should exchange their specialities. Let me read it out. A country should specialize in producing and exporting goods in which it has absolute cost advantage. In which it has absolute cost advantage, that is, it can produce more with the same resources. In which it has absolute cost advantage. Very important assumptions in theory of absolute advantage, that there are only two countries and two goods. In reality, are there only two countries? No. Assumption is this, and this theory assumes labor is the only factor of production. Very important. So one time institute can give a question, which theory assumes labor is the only factor? Theory of absolute advantage. These are the assumptions. Theory of absolute advantage assumes there is no transportation cost of transporting goods between one to other country. There is no cost incurred. And finally, labor is mobile within the country but immobile between countries. So within the same country, labor can move from one place to other place. within the same country, labor can move from one place to another place. Labor is mobile between countries, but immobile between countries means, but a labor will not go from one country to other country. Within the same country, they will migrate, but they will not go outside the country. So let me read this out for you. There are two countries and there are two goods. Labor is the only factor of production. There is no transportation cost. Labor is mobile within own country, but immobile between outside countries. Right, sir? Next, theory of comparative advantage. Very important. It was propounded by who again? Ricardo. Ricardo. It says a country should specialize in and export goods in which its absolute cost is lower and import goods in which its opportunity cost is higher. Yes, it should be good in both the things than the other country, but still, where the difference is maximum, it should export. Right? Okay. Key point. Trade is based on relative cost, not absolute cost. Even if a country is more efficient in all goods, it still benefits from trade. What people used to think earlier, suppose in the case of America, sir, if America is good in rice, as you gave in the example, and in clothes as well, compared to India, then why does America need to buy from India when it is better than India in both the goods? But the economists proved that even if this country is better in both the goods, it should still focus on the one it is way better. Like in our example, I remember it was way better in clothes, and still it should import rice. This will be advantageous for America because, sir, what logic? Can you explain us the logic? Yes. Chalo, let me explain you the logic. America, if it had produced everything, it would have dedicated resources to both rice and cloths, correct? Now, if America is only making cloths, all the resources that were earlier used for rice are now being used for production of cloths. So, when those resources are being used for cloths, yes, there is a sacrifice of rice, but the gain from making and selling cloths is much higher. That the sacrifice of rice doesn't count. I'll give you a better example. Suppose, students, all of you will become chartered accountants, right? Today, maybe you do some of your household work. For example, suppose you have time now, so you cook food, you like cooking food, okay? You clean your house. Suppose that time when you become chartered accountants, it may so happen that you have a very, very, very busy day. So, yes, a external person, suppose you hire a cook, you you make food or you clean your room better than the cook, but the cook charges 5,000 for their service. By saving this time, you are making 1 lakh. You are good in both. You are good in your CA work, you are good in your housework. In both cases, you are better than that external cook or external house help. But it doesn't mean you do both. You focus more on your CA work that gives you more money, and that extra money helps you in paying for that commodity that you are importing, that is the services of the cook or the house help. I think I am able to explain now. That is, it was an analogy. This is what I'm trying to say, that when a country is good in both, it should focus on the one it is a better at. It is more better at. Now wait. Remember, trade is a positive sum game. That is, one country will win and one country will lose. Positive sum game. And opportunity cost. There it is. There is some sacrifice involved. That is okay. Explained already. Heckscher-Ohlin theory. Very important. Heckscher-Ohlin theory or the factor endowment theory. It says it does not matter what you are good at. This theory breaks all the three. Mercantilism, it eliminates absolute advantage, comparative advantage. It eliminates all of them. Heckscher-Ohlin theory. Friends, Heckscher-Ohlin theory tells us, just ask yourself one question. What is your country more gifted with? Whatever it has been more gifted more with, you export that. Countries export goods that intensively use their abundant factors of production and import goods that use intensively their scarce factor. Suppose India has less oil. India can produce oil. India has reserves of oil, but it is scarce. So India should focus on buying oil from outside. Key propositions here. Difference in factor endowments, because nature has blessed everyone with different resources, so there is difference in comparative advantage. A capital abundant country will export capital intensive goods like America. Capital abundant means who is better in technology. And a labor abundant country like India will export labor abundant goods. Yes, we export services. Most of the software services or the apps that you see worked on are done by Indians, are being done by Indians. Next is your factor price equalization theorem, FPET, factor price equalization theorem. It says free trade equalizes factor prices in trading countries. Free trade equalizes factor prices in trading countries. So when there is a free trade, it will equalize factor prices. Understood, sir? So there it is. One country is capital abundant and the other is labor abundant. Finally, class, we have the new international trade theory. See, it explains trade between similar countries and intra-industry trade. I will explain this. It says trade is beneficial when there is variety and innovation. I will take you to ICI material to explain this because it is in great detail there. Just a moment. Only for the new trade theory, I will request everyone to pay attention, okay? And guess what? This is the last topic of Unit 1. Unit 1 will be over, right? So see. The new trade theory, pay attention class. The new trade theory suggests that in practice, many traded goods are produced by industries that are both oligopolistic and subject to external economies. Thus, instead of a picture of an international economy that is at a Pareto optimum, new trade theory offers a picture of one in which markets normally lead to suboptimal results. Sir, what does it mean? We will read another paragraph and then finally tell you the conclusion. Okay? American economist and journalist, remember the name, Paul Krugman, received 2008 Nobel Prize for Economics for his work in economic geography and in identifying trade patterns. So remember, Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize for Economics, 2008. Krugman noticed that the most international trade takes place between countries with roughly the same ratio of capital to labor. The auto industry and capital industry capital intensive. Sweden, for example, exports car to capital intensive America, while Swedish consumers also import cars from America. This is particularly true in economic sectors in India such as electronics. See, what does this theory says? Every other theory said what? If you are capital rich, you export goods to the country which is labor rich, and you buy from the country that is labor rich, right? But Krugman noticed in reality this is not working. A capital rich country is selling to another capital rich country. For example, Sweden. Sweden has one of the best cars. Sweden is a capital rich country, is selling cars to America, which is a capital rich country. This is the reality. According to new trade theory, very important, two economic concepts give advantage to countries that import goods to compete with products from the home country. So, what does this mean? New trade theory says you should import goods, it's good. What does it say? India. Suppose India has someone manufacturing cars, good. But if India also imports car from outside, what will be the advantage? The person who is selling that car in America, their economies will go up. I mean, they will be producing more cars, so their per unit car production cost will go down. When their per unit car production goes down, they will also benefit India by selling cars at lower rates. Economies of scale. So India will be able to import cheaper cars. As a firm produces more of a product, its cost per unit keeps going down. So if a firm serves domestic as well as foreign market instead of just one, then it can reap the benefit of large scale. Consequently, the profits are likely to be higher. Similarly, someone producing something in India, let's say cloths, if they don't only sell to domestic market, they also sell outside, their per unit cost crop production will go down. Network effect refers to the way one person's value for a good or a service is affected by value of that good or service to others. See, WhatsApp. What is this network effect? A person will also want to use goods. A commodity will also spread because I know that all my friends are using WhatsApp, so I will also want WhatsApp. I know all my friends are using Windows, so I will also want to use Windows. If I come to know that all my friends are using Apple phones, that is iPhones, I will also want to use iPhone. This is what it is. Network effect is nothing but, in demand you have studied, bandwagon effect. Because others have it, you also want it. So that is why also trade should take place. Because everybody is wanting to upgrade their lifestyle. So Krugman defended free trade. He said that trade should be encouraged between countries. That's the main conclusion. Now we can study the summary portion of it. You see, explains trade between similar countries and intra-industry trade. I told you. What Krugman observed was trade was taking place between countries which are almost similar. Both are capital rich. Key features: oligopoly, economies of scale, and network effects. These two you should remember. New trade theory focuses on this two. New trade theory primarily focuses on this two. Right, sir. Right, sir. Students, before I move to the next unit or the next discussion rather, I think it would be fair to first of all do some MCQs. What say? Isn't it? Let's go. Let's go everyone. and please answer everyone. Which of the following does not represents a difference between internal trade and international trade? They are saying इनमें से कौन सा एक डिफरेंस नहीं है इंटरनल और इंटरनेशनल ट्रेड के बीच में? Transaction in multiple countries, yes. Different legal systems, yes. Homogeneity of customers and currency. Homogeneity means customers in both countries are exactly same. Is that correct? Or the currencies are same? No. So they are saying not a difference. This is not a difference. This is not a difference. Students, let's try the next one, everyone. Read it, everybody, before I answer that. The theory of absolute advantage states that, I was waiting for everyone to have read it. It states that national wealth and power are best served. See, absolute advantage. Who gave it? Adam Smith, right? Adam Smith said one country is better in one thing. Now let's see. National wealth and power are best served by increasing exports. Let's see, by increasing exports and decreasing imports. Nations can improve their economic well-being by specializing in production of goods they produce more efficiently than anyone else. This looks to be true. This looks to be true, but we cannot answer before everything has been read. Value of a price of a commodity depends exclusively on the amount of labor going into production, or difference in absolute advantage explains difference in factor endowments. So students, B is the only one I think is correct. That when you are better at something, you sell that thing. Game over. Which of the following theory advocates that country should produce those goods for which it has the greatest, read this word, relative advantage. Relative advantage means you should produce those goods in which, relative means comparatively, in which you are comparatively better. Which theory is this? Theory of comparative advantage by Ricardo. Theory of comparative advantage by Ricardo. You should do that thing in which you are relatively better. None of these is the answer, because theory of comparative advantage they did not give only. Okay. Fourth one, let's read this. Which of the following holds that a country can increase its wealth? A country can increase its wealth. More exports and less imports. Which theory says that? Students, a very easy answer. Only mercantilism says that. And out of this four, only mercantilism is a theory, in fact. Others are types of economic systems. Question number 5. Given the number of labor hours to produce cloth and grain in two countries, which country should produce grain? Which country should produce grain? See, labor hours cost for production of 1 unit. See, they produce cloth, country A, in 40 hours and grain in 80 hours. They are asking which should produce grain. Country B can produce grain in 40 hours only. So the correct answer is country B. Sixth one. Pay attention, everyone. According to theory of comparative advantage, if you all remember, trade is a positive sum game. Yes, so it is, trade is not a zero sum game. I told you, trade is not a zero sum game. In fact, I made you all read this. Trade is a positive sum game. not a zero sum game. Let's see the seventh one. Seventh one. Given the number of labor hours to produce wheat and rice in two countries, and that these countries specialize and engage in trade at a price of 1 is to 1, what will be the gain of country X? What will be the gain of country X? 20 labor hours, 10 labor hours, or 30 labor hours? No gain. What will be the gain of a country X? Let's see. So see, first we focus what is happening. Country X produces wheat in 10 hours and rice in 20 hours, while country Y produces wheat in 20 hours and rice in 10 hours. Okay, so thinking carefully, what is they asking? What will be the gain of country X? So see, one thing we know, country X is going to sell what? Wheat. And country X is going to buy what? Rice. Now, since country X is buying rice, they had to they had to spend 20 hours on rice if they were themselves producing rice, correct? But but they are now able to focus on wheat, which only takes how many hours? 10 hours. So how many hours are they saving? 10 hours. So 10 labor hours. Equal amount of wheat they can produce in 10 hours, equal amount of rice they can produce in 20 hours. But now they said that no, rice is time cost consuming for us, we are not going to make it. So now they are making same quantity of wheat, so they are able to save 10 hours every time. Next, question number 8. Let's hear it out, class. What does it say? Assume India and Bangladesh have unit labor requirements for producing tables and mats shown in the table below. It follows that Bangladesh has a comparative advantage in mats. You see, Bangladesh is taking 1 hour compared to India in 2 hours. So yes, Bangladesh has a comparative advantage in mats. Correct? This statement is correct. India has a comparative advantage in tables. Yes, because India take only 3 hours. It's correct. But Bangladesh has absolute advantage in mats. That is also correct. So all these statements are correct. No problem. Question 9 and 10. Let's see what are they. Comparative advantage refers to a country's ability to produce some goods or service at the lowest possible cost compared to other countries. Okay, a country's ability to produce some goods or service at lower opportunity cost, yes, than other countries. Comparative advantage talks about lower opportunity costs. So a very key information, comparative advantage means lower opportunity costs. Very key information, comparative advantage means lower opportunity costs. Right. And finally, Ricardo explained the law of comparative advantage on the basis of labor theory of value. On the basis of labor, they took into consideration labor. So please note it down, everyone. Ricardo explained the law of comparative advantage on the basis of labor theory of value. Labor theory of value. Students, having said that, this unit was largely theoretical in nature, right? This unit was largely theoretical in nature, but the same is not true for the next one. Here we go. Right. Second unit, instruments of trade policy. Very important. What does it say, sir? Instruments of trade policy. Fantastic. Students, first try to understand there are two types of trade policy: liberal and protectionist. Liberal trade policy means free trade policy. Free trade policy means what? We will allow imports, we will also export. Means we are going to promote fair competition. So if a foreign player, somebody in a foreign country, is better than my domestic producer, I don't mind, I will let them compete. Protectionist policy says no, I will protect the producer of my country. I will impose tax on the products coming from that country. This is the difference. So class, before I explain you the different types of trade policy, you should understand a labor policy opens markets. It allows import and export to take in a free manner. Okay, it promotes import and exports rather. While the protectionist policy imposes barriers to imports, it puts restrictions on imports. Right class? It imposes a lot of barriers to imports. Liberal policy promotes fair competition. Protectionist policy focuses on protecting local industry. Focuses on protecting local industry. Agreed? Right, sir. So, if I were to explain you clearly, students, here the focus is on open markets. Here the focus is on barrier to imports. Here the focus is on fair competition. Here the focus is on protecting the local industries. Sir, got it, sir. Now, if I were to explain class, we are going to understand the different type of tariff measures. What are we going to understand? The different type of tariff. Sir, what is tariff? Tax. Tariff is tax. Here first we are going to talk about import tax. Because what are we studying first? Protectionist policy. India wants its domestic sellers to do well. India wants its domestic sellers to do well. When India wants it to do well, India has to impose taxes on goods coming from foreign nations. Why? Because foreign nation goods are sometimes better in quality and cheaper. Our Indian goods will not be able to compete with them, so our domestic manufacturers will be destroyed. How do you protect them? One of the ways is tariff. Tariff means what? Taxes. Here, what kind of taxes am I talking about? Import tax. Import tax means tax imposed on goods coming from foreign country to our country. Why? To make their goods expensive so that our sales are promoted. Understood, everybody? Now, different types of tariffs. All these types have come in the exam. All these types, in one attempt or the other, they have come in the exam. Okay? So, hear me out, friends. Hear me out, friends. Class number 1 is specific tariff. Sir, what is specific tariff, sir? Dear students, it's a tax on a commodity coming from outside, fixed amount per unit. You did not understand? India says any cycle imported into India from outside, tax will be 1000 per bicycle. So it's clear. If let's say importer Mr. X, importer name is Mr. X, he imports 5000 bicycles. So per bicycle tax is 1000. So the importer will have to pay to the government 5000 into 1000. 5,000, एक 50,000, 5 lakh, 50 lakhs. So first pay to the government 50 lakh rupees, then allow the import. Because without paying taxes, the customs will not allow clearance of your goods. And if you do so, you will also end up in jail. You have to pay double the tax and you will also end up in jail. Another type of tax is, so specific tax, I am 100% sure all students have understood, right? Next is what? Ad valorem tax. What is ad valorem tax? Dear students, it's a tax which is imposed as a percentage of value. Sir, what does it mean, percentage of value? Any bicycle imported into India, whatever its value, 20% tax. So if a bicycle is worth rupees 10,000, 2,000 is the tax, 20%. If a bicycle is worth rupees 5,000, 20%, 1,000 rupees is the tax. So when tax is fixed as the amount per unit, it is specific. When it is expressed as a percentage, it is ad valorem. When it's expressed as a percentage, it's ad valorem. Friends, what is the next one, friends? Friends, the next one is compound tariff. What's a compound tariff, friends? Interesting one. It's a combination of the above. Huh? Combination of the above? What does combination of the above means? Dear students, it means 500 plus 10%. For example, government says any bicycle imported into India, you will have to give 500 rupees per bicycle plus 10% of the value of the bicycle. That's compound. That's compound. I hope it's clear. There are many. Okay, there are many. I'll keep explaining each one of them. Then, students, there is a kind of tariff. Okay, these three, if you have not noted, please note it down. Then, students, then next one is mixed tariff. What is a mixed tariff? Interesting one. You all can note it down. This is 1, this is 2. Mixed tariff is higher of 1 and 2. Higher of 1 and 2. Sir, we did not understand. क्या बोला आपने? We did not understand. Suppose in this example only, bicycle, if I import from outside, it's 1,000 rupees, okay? And suppose the value of bicycle that I am importing is 10,000 rupees. So 10,000's 20% is how much? As per government, it's 20%. So 20% is 2,000. So which is higher for the government? 2,000. So when this is higher, government will use this. When 1,000 would have been higher, government would have taken 1,000. So whichever is higher system. That is mixed tariff. Compound tariff is this plus this. Mixed tariff is this or this, whichever is higher. Higher of 1 and 2. That's what I've written. Now class, this is an interesting one. Technical tariff. Sir, what does it mean? What does technical tariff mean? Dear students, technical tariff means where taxes are charged on the basis of components of the goods. On the basis of components of the goods. So, What they will do is, suppose there is a solar panel, or there is a e vehicle, okay? Government will not charge tax on e-vehicle. Government will look into the components of EV. Okay, it has battery. Okay, it has this panel. And on each commodity, government is going to impose a tax. So tax is not charged on the finished product. Tax is charged on the material or component used in the finished product. Okay. Then students, we have two types of very important taxes, huh? Two types of very important taxes: anti-dumping and countervailing duty. This often confuses the students. Okay. What is anti-dumping duty? India often imposes this tax on Chinese goods. You see, what happens is, China, just to destroy Indian markets, they do what, they sell at a loss to Indian markets. They sell at a loss to Indian markets. Why? They want to disrupt the Indian market. What does the Indian government do? It imposes tax on such goods to say so they become expensive. Protects against underpriced imports. Protects against underpriced imports. They protect against underpriced imports, right? Now, countervailing duty is something of a similar kind, friends. CVD, that is countervailing duty, is something of similar type. I will give you. This is particularly true in America. I will tell you what happens here. Just a moment. So students, here there are two bodies, okay? Students, here there are two bodies, okay? India and America. Two bodies are here. Now what happens here? India and America. What happens here now? American farmers are growing a crop, let's say, at rupees 500 per kg. Suppose 500 per kg, okay? What America does is, suppose American farmer, acha, America would be in dollars. I am just using rupee for the sake of explanation. Now what happens is, suppose America also grows this at 600 per kg. You know what the American government does? To encourage its farmers, American government, to encourage its farmers, so that American farmers are able to sell to India, just so that American farmers are able to sell to India. What does America do, so that American farmers are able to sell to India? America gives subsidies to its farmers. American government. Subsidies means American government tells its farmers, okay, farmers, don't worry, we are going to pay 50% of your cost. So 300 per kg American government is bearing. So the cost to the American farmer is how much? 300 per kg. Now this American farmer is able to export this good to India at 400 per kg. Now this is a really tough scenario to be in, because they are now giving competition to Indian farmers. Indian government is understanding all this game. So what Indian government does is, to bring it at par, Indian government imposes countervailing duty. Counter. Because you gave subsidy in your country, I am countering it by giving tax on my on your product. Imposing tax on your product. So let's say they impose tax of 100. The cost becomes equal to 500. So the American farmers have no unfair advantage now. So often what students ask me is, sir, so how are these two different? No, in anti-dumping duty, if the government notices that they are merely trying to disrupt our market, right, unfairly, then this is imposed, anti-dumping duty. Countervailing duty is when Indian government knows that the foreign participant has been benefited in the form of subsidies by their government. Then it is CVD, countervailing duty. Now, there are other types also, don't worry. Next is what? MFN tariff. See, MFN means most favored nation tariff. Most favored nation tariff. MFN tariff. Students, all of you would know there is a body called WTO, World Trade Organization. World Trade Organization. What is MFN? If India is a member of WTO, Pakistan is, China is, USA is, so all of these are most favored nations. Anyone who is a member of WTO is a most favored nation. So MFN tariff is basically that, see, WTO is existing why? WTO is existing why? To promote trade between its countries. So MFN tariff is a promise that WTO members make that they will impose only this much tax, they will not cross this tax rate. Why? Because the goal is to encourage trade. So it is the highest WTO allowed rate. Everybody stays within this rate only. This is the MFN tariff. WTO says, okay, you impose tax, but not so much that it results in huge loss. Now, students, every member may have to give a legal commitment. Suppose India is giving the commitment that, okay, we are not going to increase our tax more than 15%. They give this commitment to WTO. That's called bound tariff. The legal commitment given by a country to WTO. The legal commitment given by WTO to WTO by the member country. Next is what, sir? Sir, next is what, sir? Then students, you have what? Applied tariff. What is it, class? Applied tariff. Please explain it to us, sir. Dear students, applied tariff means, see, suppose India says that, okay, we are not going to increase beyond 20%, but actually India is imposing 15% only. So India is within its bound rate. That is applied tariff. Bound is what commitment we have given. Applied is what we are actually applying. And naturally, our applied tariff will be less than the bound tariff. Because if our commitment is that we are not going to increase beyond 20%, we will be below or at max 20%. Understood? Next is preferential tariff. This is interesting. A very interesting case, means it is surprising that WTO still exists. It is a useless organization. WTO. It is absolutely a useless, stupid organization. I will tell you why. There is a rule that says, suppose India has very good relation with ASEAN countries. ASEAN is Association of Southeast Asian Nations, okay? It includes your countries like Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, all these. Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Suppose India says that, okay, I want to give them preference on their goods, I will impose only 5% tax. But the WTO rule says if you give favorable treatment to one WTO country, you have to give same treatment to all WTO countries. So if India reduces 5% tax for Thailand, it has to do for everyone, Pakistan, China, America, everyone. So how to come out of this? The simple thing is you make an agreement with that country, game over. Now WTO rules will not be applicable. So if India signs an agreement with ASEAN for favorable trade arrangement, that India will not impose tax on ASEAN or will impose lesser tax, and ASEAN will impose lesser tax on Indian goods, game over. Now WTO rules are not valid. So simply by entering into an agreement with that country, you can finish this WTO time pass. This WTO time pass can be done away with. Understood, sir? Right, sir. Understood, sir. What is prohibitive tariff? Yes. What is prohibitive tariff? That's a good question. Students, prohibitive tariff means you impose a tax rate so high. You impose a tax rate so high that trade stops. No trade takes place. 1000% tax. 1000% tax. You don't want trade to take place only. 1000% tax. Now, students, these were all the tariff measures. These were all the tariff measures. But sir, are there something called non-tariff measures also? Yes, there are something called non-tariff measures also. Non-tariff means where you reduce tax. I mean, where you reduce imports, but not by imposing tax. Something else. These are NTMs. Till now, whatever you studied was what? Technical tariff measures. Now, under non-tariff measures, you have technical measures. Under non-tariff measures, you have technical measures. Sir, what are these technical measures? I'll give you an example. Please try and understand. See, all these non-tariff measures, all these non-tariff measures will also be barriers only. Will also be barriers only. All these non-tariff measures that I'm going to explain are going to be barriers only. Bus explained in a different way. Barriers explained in a different way. Let's see. Technical measure. Number one is quality and safety standards. Quality and safety standard. India is very poor here. Quality and safety standard. I'll tell you what it is. What does it say? Please pay attention. It says a simple thing. To restrict import from outside. To restrict import from outside. To restrict import from outside. Right? To restrict import from outside, you impose certain restrictions like the product should be of this ingredient. This ingredient or this color is not allowed in our product. The product should have this design. If you are able to make. If not, get lost. And the reason I say India is very poor is because FSSAI, is food safety standards assurance in India is a joke. Any first world country, you say Germany, US, you check the contents of the Fanta there. Fanta, I mean a sugary drink, cold drink, Mirinda or Fanta, and you check it in India. Certain cancer causing colors are allowed in India, which are banned not in America, in more than 50 countries. They use it in our country. Certain chips like Lay's or something, I was reading, I don't remember the product exactly. Lay's or some other product. In America, they are using sunflower oil. In India, they are using palm oil. So, you just see the kind of gap that there is. You just see the kind of gap that there is. Next, what is quota? Students, quota is a physical limit on imports. It means, okay, India says that okay, American products are allowed or Chinese products are allowed only up to 5,000 units per year. So indirectly I have restricted them. More than 5,000 cannot be purchased only. More than 5,000 goods cannot be purchased only. Then there is what class? There is what? Licensing. Licensing. Licensing means restricted permissions. Licensing means restricted permissions. Sir, what does that mean? Licensing means restricted permissions. Sir, what does that mean? We did not understand. Anything you want to sell to our country, you have to have a license for that. Or anybody wants to import, you have to have a license. And now government will delay the license procedure. So suppose government wants to discourage import of iron in our country. What will the government do? They will say, okay, for importing iron, you need to have a license. Now they will delay this license. You will apply for license, they will delay it by 2 to 3 years. Or they will impose a huge charge of license. Basically, they will give you so much inconvenience that maximum people will quit. कि छोड़ो रहने ही दो. Right. Government procurement. हाँ. Another restriction could be, what should be the another method? Government procurement rules. What does it say? Here the government says, okay, anyone wanting to do a business in India or wanting to make a product in India, so you are importing goods from outside, okay? You import goods from outside. But at least this much percentage of goods should be purchased from India. So if your product is made 100%, 50% should be Indian goods. This way Indian goods sales increases. Okay, 50% you ask, no problem. 50% you import, but 50% you buy from India. Are you understanding, class? So these are some non-technical barriers. Somehow the government is imposing a restriction kind of thing. Let's read them all, class. These were some of the most important ones. I wouldn't say all, but these were some of the most important ones. Just a moment, students. Yes, sir. See, so whatever I have done so far, let's discuss it with you. We had started the concept of instruments of trade policy, right? Here we are going to study three types of measures. Correct? What was that? Tariffs. Have we studied tariffs? Yes. Have we studied non-tariff measures? Yes. We haven't studied export related measures. We will. We will. So, whatever we have done so far, I am just discussing with you. What is free trade? Where buyers and sellers can merely exchange goods without paying any taxes. Cross country trade without any taxes. As if the entire world is a country. As if the entire world is a country. See, free trade. Buyers and sellers from separate economies voluntarily trade with minimum government interference. With minimum government interference. Then we have protectionism. I have already told you what is protectionism, where the goal is to restrict imports, to protect the domestic producers. State policy to protect the domestic producers using tariff quotas and non-tariff measures. NTM means non-tariff measures. Trade liberalization. Liberal policy means to promote trade, to allow free trade, to allow exchange of goods and services across countries. Right, sir. Now, students, types of trade policy instruments. There are how many types? Two. Price related and non-price related. First, let's see the non-price related ones. Okay. Quotas. You remember that? Quantity restriction. Only 5,000 units allowed. Quantity restriction. Licensing. Making procurement difficult. Standards. Like it should be, it should not have this chemical, it should have this design, it should have this ingredient, or it should not have this ingredient. Financial measures, that if you want to buy from outside, you have to buy Indian currency first, somehow keeping in mind. Or if you want to make in India, the servicing of this equipment will be done by Indians only. AC, they come from outside, but servicing is done by Indian companies only, generating employment. So if your goods or you are coming in my country should be benefited. I will not allow you just to take advantage of the market of my country. Huh? You will only sell to the consumers and you will not benefit my country. I will not let that happen. I mean, that is the idea behind all this schemes that I am saying. Government policies and others. And in taxes, countervailing, anti-dumping, you all remember. And there are different types of taxes. So different types of taxes, once let me explain them to you. All right, everything you will get. Specific tariff, here is your bicycle. Specific tariff, so for bicycle you have to pay 1,000 rupees per bicycle, game over. That's specific tariff. Ad valorem is when your tariff is as a percentage of value of the good. So let's say 20% of the value of the good, that is ad valorem. Mixed or compound tariff you got plus. So 5% plus 100 rupees per kg. So it's a mix. It's this. Acha, by the way, this is compound tariff. Mixed tariff is whichever is higher. Mixed tariff is whichever is higher. Whichever is higher. Got it? Then there are tariff rate quota. Yes, this is something new. First write down TRQ. TRQ stands for tariff rate quota. Tariff rate quota. So what is it, sir? Student, it says, pay attention class, there should be low tariff up to a certain quantity and higher tariff beyond that quantity. Meaning, meaning up to 500 units, up to 500 units electricity if you consume. Suppose, just giving an example, CSC is charging you 5 rupees per unit, the electricity board. But if you go above 5 rupee per unit, government is going to charge you 8 rupee per unit. Similarly, if you import up to 1000 units, government is going to charge you only 200 rupees per unit. But if you import more than 1000 units, government is going to charge you, let's say, 700 per unit. So low tariff for limited quantity. So it's a mixture of tariff and quota. Up to a certain quantity, lesser tax. Above that quantity, higher tax. Then we have two concepts, dear friends: preferential tariff and MFN tariff. Preferential and MFN tariff. What does it say? MFN tariff is the tariff rate that members have committed under the WTO rules, and preferential tariffs are when it is lower than WTO rate. How? By entering into agreements. You can simply enter into agreements. And guess what? What is the name of third chapter? Name of such agreements: NAFTA, SAFTA. There are so many others. So how logically units have been designed? Unit 1 has introduced us with what? Unit 1 has introduced us with the different theories of trade. 2 is talking about taxes. 3 will teach us about agreements. In 4th and 5th, we will know about different currency appreciation, depreciation. So there is a logic behind every unit. Okay, so coming back, lower tariff for preferred countries than the MFN rates. This is preferential rate and MFN tariff. Acha, bound versus applied. Do you remember? Bound means what the members have committed. Bound means what the members have committed to be the maximum legal rate under WTO provisions, that they are not going to charge beyond that legal rate. And applied is what they actually charge. It would obviously be less than or equal to the bound tariff. That's what I have written here. Now, some more tariffs are there. Anti-dumping duties. See, they are dumping their products to our country. When foreign firms sell goods in foreign market below the cost, why? They want to harm our Indian industry. They want to harm our Indian industry. What does government do? To offset such reduced priced advantage, they impose higher taxes. Government increases the price to offset unfair price advantage. Now see, this is the subsidy government is giving. So when exporters enjoy subsidies from their government, what does our country do? It imposes tax to counter the benefit of such subsidies. Duty imposed by importing country to neutralize subsidy effect. Isn't it logical, friends? Yes, it's logical. Then there are different structural variations. I'll tell you. Number one is prohibitive tariff. Such high rate कि imports ही बंद हो जाए. Now, this one is something new. It has come in the PYQ. Escalated tariff. Sir, what is this escalated tariff? So, say, suppose students, copper is needed, to make wires and everything, right? So Copper is a raw material. You are importing raw material so that you can make finished goods in India. Good. Government is happy. Low tax on raw materials. But you are importing the entire wires. Government is angry that you are importing finished goods in India. If you are importing raw materials, government is happy because production will take place in India. But if you are importing finished goods, government is sad. When government is sad, it will impose tax. So, higher tax on finished goods than raw materials. This is called escalated tariff. So, when tax on finished goods is higher than that on raw materials, it is escalated tariff. This is a case of escalated tariff. Understood, everybody? Right, sir. Subsidy is negative, where the government for certain essential goods is helping, benefiting. Here the government is helping and benefiting. Government is not imposing huge tax, rather government is helping the foreign country. It happens when the product is very essential. Variable tariff is just to tariff that is adjusted to maintain the support price. So suppose 500 rupee and the domestic price is 600. To bring to 600, government just imposes 100 rupees. So a tax imposed on foreign commodity to make it at par with the domestic commodity. That's it. That's variable tariff. I also told you I will explain you non-tariff measures, isn't it? So here are the non-tariff measures. By the way, just remember this, how to study it. In non-tariff measures, we have to understand in non-tariff there are technical measures. In non-tariff measures, there are technical measures and then there are non-technical measures. Okay. So in non-tariff measures, we have technical and non-technical measures. Let me explain that to you. See, SPS measures. SPS stands for sanitary and phytosanitary measures. Okay, SPS measures. Okay, so here what happens? If a country has been affected with diseases, government will not allow hens, eggs to be brought from that country. Arey bhai, that may bring disease to my country. So from diseases affected countries, government may put a ban on poultry. The goal is to protect human, animal or plant life. And then we have TBT, technical barriers to trade. What is TBT? Technical barriers to trade. What does this measure say? I told you quality, standard, certification, color, size, all this. This is TBT. Quality testing and all this stuff. Then we have non-technical measures also. Import quotas, quantity restriction, additional taxes, non-automatic licensing and prohibition. Government will want you to take license and then government will delay in giving that license. Foreign exchange controls, that only this much of foreign currency you can bring in, for rest you have to use domestic currency. Local content requirements, so out of the total product you manufacture, suppose 50% should be Indian goods. Distribution restrictions means for these products sales services will be provided by Indian companies only. Post sale service restrictions. Red tape, delay. Government will intentionally delay your matter. You have applied for some permission to import, government will delay that. Rules of origin, yes. You should not be, you have to obtain a certificate of origin, like where is this product coming from. It should not be from my enemy country. Or embargo is a PYQ question. PYQ, sometimes government may impose a embargo. Embargo means total ban, total ban on trade. That's it, game over. Embargo means a total ban, complete ban. Understood, class? So, sir, we did understand this. Just a moment. Yes. Sir, we did understand this. Now, I'll discuss some more MCQs with you all, okay? Again, it will keep into mind both the units. It's not that I'll ask only from the second unit, both the units, okay? So here we go. Which of the following economist is associated with theory of comparative advantage? Absolute advantage was Smith. This is Ricardo. Comparative is Ricardo. Mercantilist view promoted what? Which of the following? Mercantilist view promoted which of the following? Free trade, equal import and export, more export and less import, import subsidy. More exports and less imports. Heckscher-Ohlin theory is based on what? Heckscher-Ohlin theory. If you all remember it correctly, students, Heckscher-Ohlin theory is the theory of factor endowment. You should focus on what you have more advantage in, or you have more gifts of nature with. Very important. Assumptions of absolute advantage theory, very important. Assumptions of absolute advantage theory, very important. I'll wait for a minute before I answer. Let's go. Absolute advantage theory assumes what? It assumes equal opportunity cost, fixed exchange rate, mobility as the of labor across countries, labor as the only input, labor as the only input. In fact, in the notes also I had made you write. Huh. New trade theory entity, Paul Krugman. No gains from trade, constant returns to scale, economies of scale and product variety, or no rules for government. Economies of scale. Because everyone wants new variety of products, and when you are able to sell in your market as well as outside, your per unit cost goes down. Your per unit cost goes down. Instruments of trade policy. Wow. Let's see the question. Let's see this question. A tariff imposed as a fixed monetary amount per unit. A tariff imposed as a fixed monetary amount per unit. It is called what, class? Fixed monetary amount, na? Specific tariff. I have repeated twice or thrice. 1,000 rupees a bicycle. That is an example, okay? Which of the following is a non-tariff barrier? Means it is a barrier, but it is not a tariff barrier. Which one of them do you think? I have prepared with my answer. The option itself tells you. Non-tariff means not a tax. This is a tax, this is a tax, this is a tax. Common sense, basic brain is needed here. Quota is a quantity restriction. Quota is a quantity restriction. Ha, good one. A tariff that combines both value based and quantity based charges. Value based and quantity based charges. Preferential, mixed, compound, or trigger price mechanism. Value based and quantity based both. Keyword is and. So whenever we have and, we always say compound tariff. I told you 500 plus per bicycle plus 5% of value of bicycle. It is and, so combines both. You should note it down, class. A tariff that combines both value based and quantitative based charges is called compound tariff. So it's compound tariff. Huh. Which of the following protects against underpriced foreign goods? Which of the following protects against underpriced foreign goods? A good question, class. Against underpriced foreign goods. Trim, safeguard, anti-dumping, import subsidy. A class, you have the answer already. I know you know the answer. The foreign goods have been underpriced, so you need to increase its price. What will you impose? Anti-dumping duty. I had given the example of the Chinese practice. So if I'll give you an example of Diwali lights. In India, if you buy Diwali lights, India made, it's 120 rupees around. China sells it to India at 30 rupees. Means they are ready to sell at their loss. So India has to increase the tax on these commodities. Still they are cheaper, Chinese goods. Even if India imposes 20, 30 rupees tax, it's still 60. Still people buy this only. Tariff rate quota refers to. What is tariff rate quota? Very important. Today I discussed TRQ. So students, up to a certain quantity, low tariff, beyond that, high tariff. Just a moment. Class, question number 11. Again we discussed it today. What is escalated tariff? Read the options and then class try to highlight. Ha. So finally class, we have the answer. I think the answer was in the form of copper and copper wires example that I gave. That your raw materials, if you are buying from outside, it's okay, government will be happy that you will be manufacturing some finished goods in our country. Good. But what won't make the government happy, friends? Yes, certainly so. If you depend on finished goods, this won't make the government happy at all. Higher tariff on finished goods than the raw materials. Escalated tariff. Very good question. Non-tariff measure, अच्छा. Good thing is almost all the four are non-tariff measures. So this is a good question, something to think about. But that measure that talks about product quality and standard maintenance. I remember explaining this. Let's see. So friends, if you talk about, friends, if you talk about product quality, if you talk about product quality and standard maintenance, friends, we call them what? You know this? TBT, technical barriers to trade. If you remember, we have discussed it like this. Non-tariff measures are divided into two parts: technical measures, non-technical measures. In technical measures, there are two: SPS measures, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, and TBT, technical barriers to trade. SPS talks about what? The poultry and all this stuff which can cause infections or diseases. You should not be allowed to import from other country. And TBT talks about product size, quality, ingredient, specification, color, etc. Aito. Here we have the option. Sanitary and phytosanitary measures aim to protect what? Sanitary and phytosanitary measures aim to protect what? They are protecting trademarks, intellectual property, human, plant, and animal life. Are they protecting software exports, class? See, intellectual property is protected by TRIPS, trade related aspect of intellectual property. It is again under WTO, an arrangement where intellectual property will be protected. But here we are talking about human, animal, and plant life as the correct answer. So that's the correct one. Now students, having done these questions, a couple of questions, it would be great if we take up from the ICI module as well, so that this unit is mostly complete. Not everything has been completed, okay? Mostly complete. One or two small points are present, I'll discuss them. Tell me this, what is a countervailing duty? Question number 7. A tariff that aims to artificially offset the lower prices charged by exporters who enjoy export subsidies and tax concessions in their home country. This is correct. But since we have all the above, maybe the answer is all the above. I have to read the other points. Charged by importing countries to ensure fair and market oriented pricing of imported products. This is also correct. Charged by importing countries to protect domestic industries and firms from unfair price advantage arising from subsidies. Yes, so all are correct. So whenever option has all of the above, B or both of above, be extra cautious. Read the statements one more time. Because in the exam, we happen to have an scenario that, okay, we know this the answer, we become excited. No, read the option. Which of the following is an outcome of tariff? A good question. Outcome of tariff. Create obstacles to trade and increase imports and exports. If you create obstacle, how will you increase them? I don't think so. Domestic consumers enjoy consumer surplus because consumers now pay low price for the good. No connection whatsoever. Discourages domestic consumers from consuming imported foreign goods and encourage consumption of domestically produced import substitutes. This is logical. I am imposing tax so that I would want to discourage my domestic consumers from buying something from outside. 10 and 11. Tell me, class, which of the following is a non-tariff barrier? See, they are asking non-tariff barrier, complex documentation requirement, import quotas on specific goods, quantity restrictions. Correct? All नहीं है तो यही सही है. Yes, non-tariff barriers include all of the following except technical standards of product. नहीं, wait. They are asking all of the following except tariffs, right? Non-tariff barriers, na? So non-tariff means which should not be a tariff. Which should not be a tariff. Right, sir. Uh, let's read the question number 1 also. No, this is done. 2 is also done. Third one, let's see whether we are able to think and answer. A tax applied as a percentage of value. As a percentage of value. If we have been paying attention, class, we know this. As a percentage of value, which tax is imposed? Ad valorem tariff. As a value, as a percentage of value. Name itself has valorem. That is value. Yes. What is tariff rate quota? We have done here. Lower goods are charged at lower rates and higher goods at a much higher rate. Agreed? Yes, sir. Agreed. And finally, we can conclude with the fifth one, voluntary export restraint. See, what is VER? Suppose a country needs a good, India needs a good, because this is time of scarcity. Will India allow those goods to be exported? No. So then VER is imposed. VER means India, that is exporting country, voluntarily restricting the quantity of goods that can be exported out of country during a particular period. VER, voluntary export restraint. VER, voluntary export restraint. When an exporting country imposes certain restrictions during a specific period of time. Look, why this is unique, because here this is a restraint not on import, on export. Normally government allows export. Government is happy when export takes place. Sometimes it imposes VER. Class, that's it for the day. See you all in the next class. Goodbye, everyone. Tech support. The class is over. Thank you.